This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Sai. Here we are. It's the already holding in the 9 days, already approaching Tisha B'Av. In fact, this is our last year before Tisha B'Av. And this year, Tisha B'Av is in a unique situation, as it was last year, because Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos. In fact, I remember when I was a kid, it was a year Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos. I was 12 years old, actually very close to my bar mitzvah, and it was the week before my bar mitzvah, and I was walking to shul where my bar mitzvah was going to be the next week. So it was Shabbos Tisha B'Av, we were walking to shul, my bar mitzvah was going to be Parshas Vaschanan, and I come to the corner, I look in the distance, and the shul was no longer. The shul had burnt down on Tisha B'Av, the week before my bar mitzvah, the Aguda, Avenue L and Nostrand Avenue. One of the biggest shuls, maybe the biggest shul in Flatbush, it burnt down on Tisha B'Av, Shabbos Tisha B'Av. So, what we have is a very unique situation. When Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we know that the fast day is pushed off till Sunday. And the question is, and what we're going to delve into is, how do we view this situation where Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos and instead is pushed off till Sunday? So, we begin with the Rosh in Masechta Tainis, Ois Lamed Beis. The Rosh says as follows. The Rosh quotes a Tosefta. Says the Tosefta, Masechta Tainis, Chali Ois Tisha B'Av v'Shabbos. When Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, Oichel Adam Kol Tzarkai. A person could eat whatever he needs. Umala al Shulchanai, Afilu Kesuda Shloimoi B'Shaitai. He could put on his table like the feast of Solomon in his time. Ve'enoi Moinea Meyatz Meiklum. He refrains from nothing. You don't have to say, well, it's really Tisha B'Av, so I'll just eat bread and drink water. I won't eat my favorite dishes. I won't fill myself up to capacity. No. There are no restraints. Says the Rosh, what does this imply? This implies none of the restrictions are in effect. You're allowed to wash. V'sicha, you're allowed to smear yourself with oil. V'tashmish hamita, marital relations are permitted. Ve'ein sarich linoig dvarim shel tzina. Not only does not one practice avelus b'farhesya, not only does one not remove their shoes, not only does one not refrain from eating, not only does one not refrain from washing or anointing with oils, even dvarim shabetzina, even tashmish hamita, the Tosefta is mashma, tashmish hamita is mutter. Hopefully next year you have shoes. Yeah, that's what out. Koloimar she'enoi nimna merachitza. There are no restraints. Okay, this is what the Rosh is medayik from the Tosefta. Okay, so according to the Rosh, there are no restraints. Okay, Rabbeinu Meir Zal Chasav, the Rabbeinu Meir. Now, who's Rabbeinu Meir? Rabbeinu Meir is none other than the Rebbe of the Rosh. Who's the Rebbe of the Rosh? The Maram Rottenberg. Rav Meir Rottenberg. Kasav v'Hilchos Avelos Shala. He writes in his Hilchos Avelos. Kasav harav Yitzchak Mivina. Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina writes. This is Maram Rottenberg quoting Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Now, who's Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina? Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina is none other than the Arzarua. Now, how would a nice Jew who wrote a Sefer, Arzarua, get a name Rabbi Yitzchak? I mean, if his name is Rabbi Yitzchak, why would he call it Arzarua? Well, he writes that he was writing a commentary on Shemois Begitin. And he had the following question. How do you spell the name Akiva? Is Akiva spelled Ayin Kuf Yud Vez Aleph or Ayin Kuf Yud Vez Hey? So he had a dream, and in his dream they showed him the following pasuk: Oyer Zarua Latzadik Uliyishrei Lev Simcha. And at first he didn't understand what is the meaning of the dream. Then he realized Oyer Zarua Latzadik Uliyishrei Lev Simcha is Soifei Tevois Rebbe Akiva Or Reish Zarua Ayin Latzadik Kuf Yishrei, Yud, Lev, Vez, Simcha, Hey. And from there he realized Akiva is spelled with a Hey. We don't paskin that way. We paskin, it's spelled with an aleph. There are other ramazim. Midei Avir Yaakov, the Rizal says, spells out Rebbe, Avir Yaakov. The words Avir Yaakov is spelled out Rebbe Akiva. Well, there are other ramazim as well. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, did Tisha B'Av Shechal Lios B'Shabbos, Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos, Af Al Pish Anu Doichin Oisayad L'Machar, even though we push it up till tomorrow, Oisay Hayoim Aser B'Tashmish Hamita, you're not allowed to engage in marital relations. All other Avelos is one and done. All other Avelos is put aside except for Tashmish Hamita is Aser. Why? Midi dehavi akoiver meisoi beregel. It's like burying the dead on the regel. What's the halach if somebody buries their relative on a regel? Sha'anu doichin avelos ad achar haregel. The avelos begins after the regel. Ba'afilu hachi noyeg dvarm shabatzina beregel. And even so, even though the avelos begins after Yom Tov, Tashmish Hamita is aser on Yom Tov. Imkain. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, quoted by the Rami Rotenberg. The same way if someone buries their dead on Yom Tif, even though there's no Avelos on Yom Tif, Tashmish Hamita is Aser. So too, on Tisha B'Av, even though there's no Avelos on Shabbos, Tashmish Hamita is Aser. Imkain, Hachanami, Gabe Shabbosu, Gabe Tisha B'Av, Hu Keregel, it's like Avelos Regel, V'Aser B'Tashmish Hamita. Now you may make the case that there's a big difference between Tisha B'Av and Avelos, because Avelos is Avelos Chadasha, and Tisha B'Av is Avelos Yeshana. Well, says the Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, the Tisha B'Av v'Avel Shaychi Ahadadi. Tisha B'Av and Avelos are connected, are relevant to each other, are synonymous. Kida Amar Rav Chizr Per Kamad Tainis. Ad Kan L'Shoin Moiri. Says Marame Rotenberg. This concludes the words of my Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. Well, says Marami Rotenberg, Hadavar Yatsa Mipi Moiri HaKadosh. The words have emanated from my holy Rabbi. B'chal Adas Yisrael Yasu Oisai. And therefore every Jew needs to follow it. That Tashmish Hamita is Aser. Why? Kedai hu beis Elokeinu la'abed olav oina achas b'shana. The house of God is worthy enough to make us lose out on one visit a year, on one responsibility a year. Well, says Marame Rotenberg, Afa Pisha Yeshi Lahashav. Even though I have what to ask on my Rabbi. The Tisha B'Av Avelos Chalukim Mechama Devarim. There are many differences between Tisha B'Av and Avelos. Like we say in Parakach Choyleitz. Miu Nochoin Lahachmer Kedivrei Moiri. The proper thing is to be machmer like Rabbi. Why? If my Rebbe was Mekil and I was Machmir, I would still tell you to follow my Rebbe. Certainly in this case, where I'm Mekil and he's Machmir, you should be Machmir like my Rebbe. Afilu hu Mekil v'ani Machmir ho'yilon alasas kedvarav. V'kol shekein shehu Machmir v'ani Mekil ad kan l'shoin Rabbeinu Meir Zal. So Marami Rotenberg writes that even though the Tosefta implies that Tashmish Hamita is mutter, nevertheless, Rav Yitzchak Mivina says it's Aser, and if my Rebbe says it's Aser, case closed. It's an open and closed case. Even though there's what to dingzuch, even though there's what to ask, we're going to follow the psak of my Rebbe.
It's good.
So,
it's good.
So far, so good, right? Okay. So.
Is it confined only to Shmish Hamita and not Sikan Rechitza?
Correct. It's only confined to Avelos B'tzina. Avelos b'farhesia, you're now to be noyig on Shabbos, just like you're now to be noyig b'regel. It's only limited to Avelos b'tzina. That's the only ramification, okay? So according to Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, Tashmish Hamita is Aser. By the way, phones going off are not only Aser on Tisha B'Av, and even when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you can have them go off, but even on a regular Monday morning, even though it's not Shvuah Shechal, all the phones should be off as well.
How about
okay?
Mikvah on Shabbos? Mikvah on Shabbos.
That's a separate discussion. Okay. If a person goes every single Shabbos, well, for some reason when it comes to Tisha, it comes on Shabbos, all of a sudden everybody wakes up that they go to the mikvah. They've never gone to mikvah in the last 7 years, all of a sudden they need to go to the mikvah. No, if somebody's not a regular mikvah going, they can't go. No. Umiyu. Now one would expect that if the Marame Rotenberg is being machnia, he's showing deference to his Rebbe, Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, you would expect the Rosh to likewise show deference to his Rebbe, the Marami Rothenberg. No. The Rosh has a mind of his own. Says the Rosh, what can I tell you? Miu Lashon Tosefta Mashma She'ein Nimna. The language of the Tosefta implies that we do not refrain from Tashma Shamita, because it says Ve'enoi Moinea Me'atzmoi Klum. There are no restraints. Says the Rosh, V'chein Amo Daber. And that is the minhag. The minhag is Tashma Shamita is mutaras, is mutar. So, bottom line, when it comes to Dvarim Shebetzina on Shabbos Tisha B'Av, we have a major machlokes Rishonim. Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina says Aser. The Marami Rothenberg sides with his Rebbe. The Rosh says mutar. The Tosefta is mashma mutar. What we would like to do is, we would like to identify what is the Nekudas HaMachlokes. What are they arguing about? What is the point of dispute between the Marami Rothenberg and Yitzchak Mivina against the Rosh? What exactly is the point of dispute? I will point out that for Ashkenaz, Minhag Ashkenaz surprisingly is not like the Rosh. Minhag Ashkenaz like Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina and the Marami Rothenberg. The Mechaber says, look at number 2, Shulchan Aruch in Arachayim Simin Taknad, Simin Taf Kuf Nun Daled, Imchal Tisha B'Av B'Shabbos Mutter B'Chulan Afilu B'Tashmish Hamita. Whose shita is that? Correct. The Rosh. That's the shita of the Rosh. Haga V'Yesh Oisrim Tashmish Hamita. Whose shita is that? The Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina Marami Rothenberg. V'Chein Noya again. That's the minhag. So the minhag is Kedaihu Beis Elokeinu La'abed Olav Oina Achas B'Shana. What we would like to investigate is what exactly is the machlokes. We know Tisha B'Av in general is pushed off to Sunday. You're allowed to eat on Shabbos, you're allowed to drink on Shabbos, you're allowed to wash on Shabbos, Sicha is mutar. Yet when it comes to Tashma Shamita, there's this machlokes Rishonim. What's the machlokes? And this machlokes has many, many ramifications, halach l'maisa. Okay, we begin with the Shabbos Teshuvas Ksav Sofer. The Ksav Sofer in Siman Kuf Aleph brings down 2 Gemaras. One is a Gemara in Megillah Daf Hey Amud Beis, and one is a Gemara in Tainis Chav Tes Amud Beis. The first Gemara is the sheet of Rabbi. Rabbi says the Gemara, Rabbi Bikesh Lakar Tisha B'Av. Rabbi wanted to uproot Tisha B'Av.
When he was on Shabbos.
I think he would get a lot of jobs, right? Rabbi wanted to be Oker Tisha. And the Gemara says what? The Gemara says V'loi hoidu loi chacham. The chacham did not agree. Back to Gemara, Rabbi wanted to uproot Tisha B'Av. Says the Gemara, what happened was Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos, and they pushed it off to Sunday. Says Rabbi, once you're pushing it off, forget about it. Right? You know that sign when you come into Brooklyn? Forget about it. Right? So that's what Rabbi says. Once Tisha B'Av is pushed off, so just be oikered completely. The Chacham did not agree. The Chacham said it's pushed off, but you have to fast anyway on Sunday. Let's talk about the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan. I ask you a question historically. The night of Tisha B'Av, when everyone's sitting on the floor crying, what happened to the Beis HaMikdash at that point? Nothing. And in the morning, when everyone's sitting on the floor saying kinnis, starving, thirsty, what happened to the Beis HaMikdash at that point? Nothing. And when everybody gets up to watch all the movies that halach l'Moshe Sinai at midday, what happened to the Beis HaMikdash at that time? Nothing. It's only at the end of the day when when everybody has on their mind what's in the omelet. Only then the Gemara says they set fire to the Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash burnt when? On the 10th. So Rabbi Yochanan says, wait a second. Ilu el malei hayisi hasan. If I was there, if I was around, I have it hayisi, right? El malei hayisi b'osei adar like kavativ ella basiri. I would have made Tisha B'Av on the 10th. Why? Sharuba shehechal by nisraf. Most of the hechal burnt down on the 10th. And what do the Chachamim say? Is chalutza de paranusa adifa. The beginning of the paranus is worse. In other words, the Chachamim say the beginning of the punishment is worse. Okay. Gotta turn that off. The beginning of the punishment is worse. The beginning of the burning is worse. So I have a question for you. Rabbi Yochanan holds that really Tisha B'Av should have been established on the 10th day of Av. But what could we do? What could we do? You know, they didn't listen to him. Rabbi Yochanan is licking his chops this year. Rabbi Yochanan loves this year. You know why Rabbi Yochanan loves this year? Because according to Rabbi Yochanan, this is Tisha B'Av as a darf shazayin. This is the way a Tisha B'Av is supposed to be on the 10th. Normally, in a normal year, nobody's listening to Rabbi Yochanan. But at least this year, Rabbi Yochanan got his wishes. This year, Tisha B'Av is the way it's supposed to be, according to Rabbi Yochanan. So with that analogy, Ksav Sofer declares the following chakira. On a year like this year, where Tisha B'Av is coming out on Shabbos and we push it off to Sunday, how do we view Sunday? Do we view Sunday that really Tisha B'Av is Shabbos? But what can we do? You're not allowed to fast on Shabbos. So Sunday is a make-up for Shabbos. Really Tisha B'Av was Shabbos. Sunday is a make-up day. It's like a rain out. You have a ticket and it got rained out. So you have a make-up, you could go in and go the next day and cash in on your ticket. Is Sunday make-up? Or do we say, no, since l'chatchila you can't fast on Tisha B'Av, on a year like this year, the Chachamim are koiveya Tisha B'Av on Sunday. Especially in light of Rabbi Yochanan Shita, that anyway Tisha B'Av is supposed to be on the 10th. So under the circumstances, Tisha B'Av was not on Shabbos. Under the circumstances, Tisha B'Av was established on Sunday. You hear the difference? Do we say Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, but what can we do, so we need to push it off to Sunday? Or no, under the circumstances that we have this year, there were koiveya Tisha B'Av on Sunday in the first instance. So you'll ask, what's an nafkamina? Either way, the upshot is you're fasting on Sunday. Who cares whether it's really Shabbos and pushed off to Sunday, or it was established on Sunday to begin with? I tell you, it makes a big nafkamina. You know what the nafkamina is? For Tashmish Hamita on Shabbos, on Dvarim Shabbatzina. If you say that really Tisha B'Av is Sunday, Elamai, you can't have Avelis B'far Hesa, you can't not eat on Shabbos, you can't not wear shoes on Shabbos, you can't not wash your hands on Shabbos. So therefore we have to do all those things on Sunday. Yeah, but Dvarim Shabbatzina, things that are personal, nobody knows about, that you could be knowing on Shabbos, and therefore Tashin Amita will be also on Shabbos. And that is the opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, and that is the opinion of the Marami Rothenberg, that the Iker Tisha B'Av is Shabbos. Elamai, there are certain hanhagos that we're not allowed to conduct ourselves on Shabbos, so they get pushed off. But those hanhagos that you're allowed to conduct yourself on Shabbos remain on Shabbos. But if you say, no, on a year that Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, they were never established Tisha B'Av on Shabbos. It was established l'chadchila on Sunday, like Rabbi Yochanan himself would say, Ilu malei hayisi sham loy kavativ elo ba'asiri. Then, like the Tosefta says, Einoi moinea me'atz moiklum. Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av. Shabbos is nothing. It's like Shabbos Shushan Purim. Shabbos is a regular Shabbos. Yeah, it's Erev Tisha B'Av, but it's not Tisha B'Av. That l'chayra is the shita of the Rosh. So the Sefer Elohim Moyadoi points out that according to this chakira of the Ksav Sofer, of how do we view Tisha B'Av that gets pushed off to Sunday? Do we view it as a make-up day, or do we view it as under the circumstances, that's the way it was established? That would make an afkamina lahalacha about Dvarim Shabbatzina on the Shabbos. Now, Lamaisa, the minhag is to be machmir on Dvarim Shabbatzina. That would seem to indicate that what? That really Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, and Sunday is a make-up, but we're going to see that's not the case. Let me tell you another amazing nafkamina. Anybody here born on Yud Av? No, not yet. Anybody know anybody born on Yud Av? Okay, we could still be friends. But there are people in this world who are born on Yud Av. And if you're born on Yud Av, when will your bar mitzvah be? Yud Av. Well, let me tell you a story about a kid who was born on Yud Av, and his bar mitzvah came out on Yud Av. The only thing is, the 9th of Av that year was Shabbos. And the 9th of Av that year was Shabbos, and it gets pushed off to his bar mitzvah day. What a treat. His bar mitzvah day falls out on Tisha B'Av. Does he have to fast on Tisha B'Av that year? So let me ask you a question. Does a child under bar mitzvah have to fast on the Dalet Tanisim? No. N-O. There is no chinuch on the Dalet Tanisim. The Gemara talks about chinuch for Yom Kippur, that you're mesanim l'shois, that when the kid is 9, 10, 11, 12, you build them up to start fasting on Yom Kippur. There is no halacha that a kid under bar mitzvah fasts for the Dalet Tanisim. In fact, there's a how do we call it? The world says that before a kid is bar mitzvah, he has to fast 3 times. You ever hear that? Yeah? Well, Rav Shlomo Zalman says, Lo'haya v'lo nivra, nishka shtoigen, nishka floigen. Never, no such thing. You do not have to fast 3 times before a bar mitzvah. In fact, Rav Shlomo Zalman would say there are 3 things that people say you have to do 3 times, and none of them are true. And this is one of the 3. One of the 3. So there's no chinuch on the Dalet Tanisim. Oh, what are the other 2? Is there a Halicha Shlomo here? So what are the other 2? 3 things that you have to do 3 times. Oh, one of them is, people say in order to take out a Sefer Torah, you have to lean from it 3 times. The Aruch HaShulchan brings such a thing down. Mishnah Berurah doesn't bring it down. Rav Shlomo Zalman says, no such thing. You don't have to. All right, maybe so we got 2 out of 3 so far. Hopefully, remember the 3rd. Says the Marsham, does this child who becomes bar mitzvah on Tisha B'Av, on Yud Av, does he have to fast Yud Av? Says the Marsham, it depends on this Chakira l'Ksav Sefer. If the way we view Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos is that under the circumstances the Chachamim were masaking Tisha B'Av on Sunday, so the kid is a bar mitzvah on Sunday, he has to fast on Sunday. But if the way, and that's l'chayra the way the Rosh would say, that Tisha B'Av is Sunday, the kid has to fast. But if you say that really Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, Elamai, you can't fast on Shabbos, so Sunday is a makeup. So this poor kid, he doesn't have to fast on Sunday, but he's a bar mitzvah. He says to you, why do I have to fast? Why do I need to make up something that was originally nischayev when I wasn't a bar mitzvah boy? If really Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, Elamai, Sunday is a makeup, then the kid who becomes bar mitzvah on Sunday does not have to fast on Sunday because it's only a makeup for Shabbos. So this would be another amazing nafkamina. Again, if under the circumstances the Chachamim were masaking Tisha B'Av on Yud, then the kid has to fast. But if really Tisha B'Av is on the 9th, Elamai, the 10th is a makeup, a child who was not chayiv in the etzem tainus. In other words, he was not chayiv in the ikar tainus. He wasn't a bar mitzvah on Tisha B'Av. He would not have to make it up on Sunday. So we have 2 nafkaminas. One is regarding Dvarim Shabbatzina on Tisha B'Av, that if Sunday is a makeup, then Dvarim Shabbatzina would be noyeg on Shabbos. And if a kid becomes bar mitzvah on Sunday, then it comes out the opposite. And when it comes to Dvarim Shabbatzina, if they were koivei Tisha B'Av on Sunday, Dvarim Shabbatzina would be mutter. And it comes out another kula that if they were koivei Tisha B'Av on Sunday, that a kid who becomes bar mitzvah on Sunday, then it would come out of chumrah, would have to fast. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So far we have it's 2 conflicting. It depends how you look at it. If Tisha B'Av is Sunday, there's certain kulas. Dvarim Shabbatzina would be muteras on Shabbos. But if Tisha B'Av is Sunday, then a kid would have to fast. Let me ask you the following question. We know in the hierarchy of the 3 weeks, you have the 3 weeks, you have the 9 days, you have Shiur Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Shiur Shechal by Tisha B'Av is more chamor than even the 9 days. So for instance, what's an example where it's more chamor? Let's say somebody has a leniency, that a situation where they would be allowed to shave during the 3 weeks, let's say for Parnasa. Right? Rabbi Moshe says, L'tzarech Parnasa, they were never noyeg not to shave during the 3 weeks. If somebody doesn't need to, so then they follow the minhag. Let's say a person legitimately has to shave for Parnasa, but Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av is a different story. Because Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av is not a minhag, it's Medina de Gemara. So the big shaila is, this year, when is Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av? Are we in Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av now?
No.
Or are we not in Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av? Is this the week of Tisha B'Av? Or is this not the week of Tisha B'Av? So you're right, it is, or maybe it isn't. What does it depend on? It depends on this chakira. If really Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, Elamai, you can't fast, so you have to push it off, then this is Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av. If under the circumstances there are only Koivei Tisha B'Av on Sunday, there is no Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Is it Lechatchila on Sunday, or is it Nikva on Sunday, or is it really Shabbos and then pushed off? Well, so let's see how we paskin. Shulchan Aruch writes in our Chaim Siman Tav Kuf Non Aleph, La'achar hatainis mutter l'saper u'lechabes miyad. After the tainis, you're allowed to take a haircut and do laundry immediately. V'imchal Tisha B'Av b'yom Rishon, if Tisha B'Av comes out on Sunday or b'Shabbos, or if it comes out on Shabbos, v'nidche la'achar haShabbos, and it gets pushed off to Sunday. Here, if Tisha B'Av comes out on Sunday, or if it comes out on Shabbos and gets pushed up to Sunday, mutter b'shtei Shabbosos. You could take a haircut and do laundry both weeks. The week before and the week after. Bein she'koydem hatainus, bein she'acharav. Now listen carefully. If Tisha B'Av comes out on Sunday, of course we know why the Mechaber would say you could take a haircut the week before. Because it's not Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av. But the Mechaber says, even when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you could take a haircut the week before. V'yesh mi she'omer, and there are those who say, she'nogu lesser kol shvuah shelafanav, that they aser the week before. Except for Thursday and Friday, we'll cover Shabbos. So Mechaber brings down two opinions. Opinion number one is that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, there is no Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av. The second opinion is, when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, there is Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Let me ask you a question. Who is the Mechaber paskening like? Well, there's a klal. When you learn the Mechaber, when he brings down two opinions, and one opinion is a Yesh Misha Omer, he's paskening like the other opinion. Because this opinion is only a Yesh Misha Omer. The Mechaber is paskening that if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, the week before is mutter. The Mechaber paskins, this year there is no Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av. And that's the halacha. So let's say somebody needed to shave for Parnasa, they could shave. There's no restrictions this year. That's how we paskin. Look, you have to know how to read a Mechaber. Mechaber brings down two opinions. One opinion is Stam. One opinion is Yesh Misha Omer. The Mechaber is paskening that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, the week before is mutter. So if you want to know, is there Shvuah Shechal by Tisha B'Av this year? The answer is no. So now let's come back to the other shilas. So it would come out, no, not on this prat. Then it would come out as follows. That a kid who would become bar mitzvah on Yud Av, let's say a kid's bar mitzvah this Sunday, he would have to fast. Because that day is Tisha B'Av. So the question is, so why are we machmir when it comes to Tashma Shamita? Because Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina said so. And in other words, it's not me'yikar hadin. It's not a mamish me'yikar hadin that Dvarim Shabbatin are asar. L'mashal, Mishnah Berurah says, a woman whose leil tefillah is Friday night, it's mutter. What do you mean? But it's Tisha B'Av. The answer is no, it's not Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is Sunday. Okay, it's the day that Tisha B'Av was supposed to come out on, so we're Kedaihu Beis Elokeinu L'Abed of Oina Achas. But if, let's say, it's Leil Oina, Leil Tefillah, then it would be Mutter. So, you should know, Halacha L'Maisa, we paskin that there is no Shavuot Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Tell you another important thing. This is what you mentioned before.
What if the next day, it's not Friday night, she has to go in this emotion?
No, of course not. That's Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av you can't.
When you mentioned Sephardim Ashkenazim is different.
No. Sephardim are Mekel on Friday night. But I'm saying even Ashkenazim are Machmir, but for Leil Tefillah, Ashkenazim are Mekel on Friday night. But Matzah Shabbos, everybody says. Matzah Shabbos is Midivrei Nevi'im. Midivrei Nevi'im, it's one of the 5 Yinuim. Okay. It's also, they're also fixed on Tisha B'Av, right?
The 2 nights a year when it's cold, you can't go.
Yeah. Okay, Rabbi Sai. We know, it's interesting. Midivrei Nevi'im, you have 5 Inuyim on Tisha B'Av. Learning, what about learning on Tisha B'Av? Well, our minhag is we don't learn on Tisha B'Av. The Gemara mentions it. Pikudei Hashem Yisharim, Misam Chelev. How about Erev Tisha B'Av? It's not brought down in the Gemara. Not brought down in Shas. However, what? The Rama brings down a minhag. The Rama number 9, V'noagu shaloi lilmoid be'erev Tisha B'Av mechatzos ve'elach kiyim b'dvar ma'amatar Tisha B'Av. There's a minhag not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av, only those things that are mutter on Tisha B'Av. Well, what if Erev Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos? Says the Rama, what happens to Pirkei Avos? No Pirkei Avos. What about Shpatzirs? No Shpatzirs either. No Pirkei Avos and no Shpatzirs.
Rabbi, I think that Rabbi Elman passed that we are allowed to learn that Yomi on Shabbos.
Okay, we'll see. That's what the Rama says. The minhag is the Rama says is not to. Not everybody agrees with the Rama. Says the Mishnah Berurah, what's the reason you can't learn Erev Tisha B'Av? I mean, you could eat, you could drink, Baruch Hashem, you could wear shoes, you could wash your hands, so why can't you learn? Says the Mishnah Berurah, the Torah mesameches halev, when we call makom, kol zeh einoi medina. It's not a halacha. The mutar Erev Tisha B'Av medina kol hachamisha inuyim. Ve'ikar atam, you know why there's a minhag not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos? Because you have alternatives. Food, there are no alternatives to food. It's not like, you know what, instead of eating now, I'm going to breathe in air. Doesn't work. There's no alternative to food. But learning, you can learn Kamsa Bar Kamsa, you can learn Eicha, you can learn Yirmiyah. Right? Kamsa Bar Kamsa, I know you learned already. But most people, even though every year you can learn Yirmiyah, nobody ever learned it. Right? So you can learn Yirmiyah. By the way, the Chassam Sofer has a very interesting reason why there's a minhag not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. The Mishnah Berurah says the reason is because there are alternatives. The Chassam Sofer in the Tshuva, look at number 12, writes on the 6th line, he says, "V'nei tama minhag lo nisparish." We don't really have a clear reason for the minhag. Ulefi ani as daiti mishum the kol ma shelo imed mechatzos ve'elach adayin machshavta yolav v'hur gabe balayla. You know why you're not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av? Because normally what you learn during the day is still sifting through your mind in the nighttime. The reason you don't learn Erev Tisha B'Av is because we're afraid you're still going to be thinking of it at night. And you're going to be entering the Avelos b'simcha. Okay. By the way, the Mishnah Berurah brings down that many people do not like this Rama. The Mishnah Berurah brings down, many Achronim say, first the Mishnah Berurah brings down as follows. Many Achronim are mashma that this is a correct minhag, and they don't protest. And they say that even if Tisha B'Av comes out, that even if Erev Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, still we don't learn after Chatzos. However, it says the Mishnah Berurah on the 4th line on the second page, there are many Achronim that question this minhag. Who questions it? First of all, the Marshal. The Marshal writes that You know how much he doesn't like the minhag? That he himself would learn after Chatzos on Erev Tisha B'Av. Okay. And not only that, he allowed others to learn after Chatzos Erev Tisha B'Av. The Gra says it's a Chumrah Yisera. It's an excessive Chumrah. The Maimar Mordechai speaks at length about it. We're going to see what he writes in a moment. Says the Maimar Mordechai, this is one of these minhagim that brings to Bittul Torah. Because he says many loimdim are misrashal in Limud Torah on Erev Tisha B'Av. Why? Says the Maimar Mordechai, what are you going to tell a guy? Okay, from now on, from 12 o'clock on, you can only learn Kamsa bar Kamsa. So the guy says, how many years in a row are you going to tell me to learn Kamsa bar Kamsa? Let me learn what I want to learn. You can't legislate to somebody, it's okay, you're now to learn, but there's so many things you could learn. I don't want to learn those things. I want to learn what I want to learn, says the Maimar Mordechai. And the Maimar Mordechai is Mekel. And he himself is Mekel. And the Chai Adam says it's a Chumrah Da'alma. Says the Mishnah Berurah, somebody who wants to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos, ein moichin b'yadai. We're not going to protest. Now, what does that sound like to you? Sound like to me is, if you're able to hack it, if you're able to control yourself, it's best not to learn Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. If you can't control yourself, in other words, if you feel it's going to really affect your learning, so then no problem, there's Yesh Al Mi Lismach. But then the Mishnah Berurah continues. If Erev Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you don't say Pirkei Avos. Says the Mishnah Berurah, but when it comes out on Shabbos, we have an added kula. And that is, the Taz says, on Shabbos, Nachtem Si, you're going to tell a guy not to learn after Chatzos. He says, no. Says the Taz, if you learn on Shabbos after Chatzos, you don't lose your schar. Even if Tisha B'Av comes out Shabbos, certainly if it comes out Sunday. Says the Mishnah Berurah like this. During a weekday, I already told you if you want to be Mekel from Chatzos and on, ein limchos. And on Shabbos, says the Mishnah Berurah, you could definitely be soimech on the Taz and the Maimar Mordechai and all the Achronim that say on Shabbos after Chatzos you're allowed to learn. Okay? But if the Ramah would walk in the room, what would the Ramah say about learning on Tisha B'Av after Chatzos Erev Tisha B'Av? You don't learn. The minhag is not to learn. The Ramah says the minhag is not to learn. What was the Mishnah Berurah say? On a weekday, ein limchos. On a Shabbos, yesh lismach lahakam. But the Ramah would say no. The minhag is not to learn after Chatzos. Comes the Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer has the following chakira. Is not learning avelos b'farhesya or avelos b'tzina? In general. In other words, if somebody's not going to learn, is that avelos b'farhesya or avelos b'tzina? It's avelos b'tzina. Nobody knows they're not learning. The guy comes home, he eats, he's sitting at the table. Who knows exactly what he's reading? You know, the difference nowadays between Torah Svarim and Dvarim B'Telim, it's hard to know the difference, right? All the books look the same. So it's not learning Dvarim Shabbatzina, Dvarim Farhesya. L'char it's Dvarim Shabbatzina. Well, it says of Chassam Sofer, we're noyeg that if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we're machmer on Dvarim Shabbatzina. Should we be machmer not to learn the whole day as well? We know Erev Tisha B'Av, the minhag is only not to learn after Chatzos. But it's not Erev Tisha B'Av this year. It's Tisha B'Av. Says the Chassam Sofer, he quotes the Chakira of the Magen Avram, and that Chakira is, since it's Tisha B'Av, and not learning is only Dvarim Shabbatzina, should we aser learning the whole day on Shabbos? Rabbi say, what do you think it depends on? It depends on this Chakira that we're speaking about. If really Tisha B'Av, that falls out on Shabbos, Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, but what? It's pushed off to Sunday. Well then, says the Chassam Sofer, then it would come out, you shouldn't be allowed to learn the whole day on Shabbos. But if, under the circumstances, Tisha B'Av was established l'chadchila on Sunday, then Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av, then you could definitely learn in the morning and after Chatzos. It depends if you follow the Ramah or not. Now, Rabbi say, who do we paskin like? Do we paskin this year Tisha B'Av is Shabbos pushed off, or do we paskin it was established on Sunday in the first instance? How do we paskin? So we said the Shulchan Aruch says this year there is no Shvua Shechal by Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is Sunday. Says the Chassam Sofer, you got it right. Since the Shulchan Aruch paskins that Tisha B'Av is Sunday, then you're allowed to learn on Shabbos, and after Chatzos, depends if you follow the Rama or not. Okay? So halach l'maisa, you could definitely learn Shabbos morning, and after Chatzos, the Rama is Machmir, the Mishnah Berurah is Meikal. Okay. So Rabbi said, so far we mentioned 4 nafkaminas. Nafkamina number 1 of whether it's tashlumin or established in the first instance on Sunday is dvarim shabatzina. Nafkamina number 2 is for a kid who is bar mitzvah on Sunday. Nafkamina number 3 is there shvua shechal by Tisha B'Av? And nafkamina number 4 is whether you're allowed to learn on this Shabbos. I'll tell you another nafkamina. Let's say somebody had a baby boy yesterday. They're going to be making a bris milah on Sunday. My brother-in-law a few years ago, he made a bris milah on Sunday, on Tisha B'Av. Do they have to fast? Does the Baal bris have to fast? Now, somebody who makes a bris on a regular tainus, he does fast. But what about on a nidcha? So what would you say? Does the Baal bris have to fast? It depends. If this year Tisha B'Av is Sunday, then the Chayra he would have to fast. If it's Shabbos pushed off, he doesn't have to. And lo and behold, here is where it takes a turn. Even though we paskin this year Tisha B'Av is Sunday, a Baal bris does not fast on. A Baal bris will after mincha. He's mispalo mincha, and he's not mashlim his tainus. Why? But the tainus was koiveya on Sunday. I thought it's a nidcha. Excuse me, I thought under the circumstances it was established in the first instance on Sunday. The answer is, let's just clarify one point. Even though we have a chakira, is Tisha B'Av Shabbos and it just pushed off to Sunday, or under the circumstances it was established in the first instance on Sunday, either way, it's not as strong as if Tisha B'Av is falling out on the day that it's supposed to. Even if under the circumstances it's established on a Sunday, it still has a din of a nidcha. And bottom line is, a Baal bris, look at number 14, Tisha B'Av Shechaliyos B'Shabbos, the nidcha liyoim aleph, Tisha B'Av comes on Shabbos pushed up to Sunday, Baal bris mispalo mincha, but ayam gadol he davens mincha gedoyla, v'roichetz he could wash, ve'enoi mashlim tanisai, lefi sheyamtiv shalayu. It's a yamtiv. Yeah. Maybe the moil and the sandak as well.
And the mother.
Can you have the bris? Do you have to wait till you have to bris in the morning, or you can wait till the afternoon also?
No, the afternoon, definitely afternoon.
But after mincha gedolah. But I think they make the bris. They make the bris on the 8th day, and then the suda is that night. The suda is that night. One more nafkamina. Just the halacha is that a mu'uberes on a regular tainus, on one of the dalat tanesim other than Tisha B'Av, mu'uberes who's choylik tzas, or maybe not even choylik tzas, mu'uberes usually does not fast on the dalat tanesim, except for Tisha B'Av. A mu'uberes would fast on Tisha B'Av. What about this year Tisha B'Av? What about on Tisha B'Av nidcha? So then the Bir Halacha brings down in Siman Taf Kuf Nun Tes that someone who's a choyle ktsas, in other words, let's say a choyle who would ordinarily fast on Tisha B'Av, this year would not fast on Tisha B'Av. A choyle ktsas does not fast on Tisha B'Av this year when it's a nidcha. A muberes this year, normally she does fast on Tisha B'Av, would not fast on Tisha B'Av. Why not? Basically, we make a kal v'chomer. You ready for this kal v'chomer? If a Baal bris on a normal fast day fasts, right? Someone who's making a bris on, let's say, Shivas B'Tammuz would fast, but a muberes would not fast on Shivas B'Tammuz. So then on Tisha B'Av Nidcha, where a Baal Bris does not fast, all the more so Muberes would not fast. Now here's a good chakira. When could the Muberes break her fast? Do we say, well, she's learning it out from the Baal Bris, and the Baal Bris could only break her fast after Mincha, so Muberes, or do we say, no, Muberes doesn't fast at all on a regular fast, so she also would not fast at all. It's even more lenient. A Nidcha of Tisha B'Av is even more lenient. The way my Messiah is that she doesn't have to fast at all. Even in the morning, she doesn't fast at all. But what does it depend on? It really should depend on this chakira. That if really Tisha B'Av Shabbos and just pushed off, we could be lenient with Muberes, as opposed to if it was established in the first instance on Sunday, we should be machmir, but we're not. We're not. Bottom line is, there's certain things we're machmir on, there's certain things we're makel on. What are we machmir on this Shabbos? Dvarim Shabbat. What are we makel on this Sunday? A Baal Bris, a Muberes, a Chaylik Tzas. But in general, the halacha, the ikar halacha is that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, Shabbos is not Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is Sunday. And that is why halacha l'maisa, there's no Shavuot Shechal by Tisha B'Av. That is why halacha l'maisa, l'chayra, a kid who becomes bar mitzvah on Sunday would have to fast. And that is why... So, right, we mentioned 5 nafkaminas. Dvarim Shabbatzina, we are machmeran. Bar mitzvah boy, we say he does fast. Shavuot Shechal by Tisha B'Av, we are lenient on. Learning on Erev Tisha B'Av, we are lenient on this year, and we say in the morning, it doesn't have the status of Tisha B'Av, it's Erev Tisha B'Av, you could definitely learn till Chatzos. After Chatzos, if you follow the Ramah, you're machmir. The Mishnah Berurah says that if it comes out on Shabbos, the Lashon of the Mishnah Berurah is Yesh Lismoi Chazai, you could rely on this. And regarding Muberes and Baal Bris, we are Mekel, and we're Mispalel, Tzayim HaRavi, V'tzayim HaChamishi, V'tzayim HaShvi, V'tzayim HaSiri, Yiyah, L'Beis Yehuda, L'Sasain, L'Simcha, L'Mayadim Tovim, and Mirz Hashem, we hope to go like Rabbi, that Kivan Shehudchu, Hudchu.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.